What's up, guys? Today we're talking a little bit about morning routines. What are they? Why do you need them? And a little peek into what mine looks like, ideally, on a daily basis. So, I'm drinking some cold brew, and I think a lot about morning routines. It's really sparked by some of the writings of James Clear, of Tim Ferriss, of Lewis Howes, really talking about how important morning routines are to kind of setting the tone for your day, and then the consistency of them being something that kind of sparks the mindset that you need and want to instill in your day-to-day. So, for me, morning routine makes me feel more productive, gives me more energy, makes me feel more positive. And that spills into all other areas of my life. So when I start out my day and I do the things that I tell myself that I'm going to set out to do, that map back to my more macro goals, and we'll talk about that in a second, then I feel like I can really take on anything. It's when you get something done first thing in the day, it kind of paves the way for you to get all the things done that you want to take care of. So that part's pretty cool. So when I'm thinking about, or when I started thinking about my morning routine, and if you're starting to think about yours, I really like to map it back to what your macro goals are. So zoom out 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, whatever you're comfortable with, in terms of what you're trying to achieve in your life, whether it be work, personal, relationships, health, all that type of stuff. So I recommend at least 5 years. So between a 5 and 20 year view, and you can have multiple kind of goals along that spectrum. But think about what are the things that you want for your life in the long term, and then reverse engineer back from there. So your morning routine should ideally look like small micro steps towards those longer term macro goals. And so the biggest thing that I feel determines success for a morning routine is consistency. And honestly, that part is the biggest struggle too. Things are going on in your life. You don't do the same things every single day. So expecting, yourself to wake up at the same time and feel the same way every single morning and every single night is kind of ludicrous. But, give yourself the flexibility to adapt, and give yourself the room to kind of fall off the horse and get back on. But the biggest thing is consistency. And so one of the tools that I use is an iPhone app. It's called Habit List, and this basically lets you put together a list of the things that you want to do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and it tracks them for you. When you do them, you check them off, and then it resets the next day or the next week, whatever frequency you set in it. And you can set reminders for it throughout the day. So I have an 8 a.m. check on did you get the things done that you're supposed to get done between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. Because that's like a key window for me before starting my workday, that I want to get a number of things done on a personal level to make sure that my workday and my health and my personal relationships are on the right track and in the right direction. So when it comes to routines, I've mentioned already morning routines, but routine is really something that can be thought about throughout the day. So, but I think morning is one of the biggest areas for this, because it sets the intention for your day. So it all comes down to, when do you wake up? And so if you're a night owl, you work till 2 in the morning, your wake up time is going to be a little bit later. If you tend to have kind of a more balanced wake up and bedtime, then it's going to be kind of more average. And so I was doing some research on this, and some of the top performers that were surveyed, and I think it's morningroutinesbook.com or something like that, the average wake up time was 6:23 a.m. and the average bedtime was 10:57 p.m. and most people got between 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. So always think about what time you're going to sleep, and set some consistency there. bedtime and wake up times are really, really tied to habit. So if you try to wake up at 5 a.m. once a week, that's gonna be really difficult for you. But if you start waking up earlier and earlier, eventually getting to 5 a.m. and doing that on a daily basis, that's gonna feel like your normal routine. Your body's gonna be used to that. It's gonna be a lot easier to do. So in the morning, I'll run through what some of my morning routine looks like, just to kind of give you an idea. So first thing is exercise. So I wake up, I go to a gym that does classes, and there's a 6 a.m. class, and that's the class I go to. I find if I don't go to that, I typically get caught up with work and I don't go at all. So I need to get that done first thing. So I wake up and I go to the gym first thing. I don't do anything else. I drink a little water, and then I go to the gym. So, in that survey, 79% of people, of those top performers, those experts that were surveyed, 79% of them included exercise as part of their morning routine. So it just shows you how important this part is. You're likely already doing some form of exercise first thing, or you know that you should be. But if you're not, or if you have been kind of like, I don't know, I guess, it's harder to wake up and do it early, think about trying it, because it does seem to be something that works for a lot of people. Next thing is water, drinking water in the morning. Over the course of a 7 to 8 hour night of sleep, your body uses up water, and you need to rehydrate yourself. Water is that source of life, so make sure you're drinking water first thing in the morning. I start before the gym with about a glass of water, like 8 ounces of water, but usually by the time 8 a.m. hits, I drink these big kind of 32-ounce Nalgene's. I've kind of taken down one of those by about 8 a.m. The next thing is coffee and breakfast. So a lot of people are drinking coffee first thing in the morning. It's something that I like to do. I actually include it with my breakfast, so I do a morning smoothie and I add cold brew into it, and I also add a packet of Four Sigmatic Lion's Mane mushroom coffee, and that is a great way to kind of get that all in. So I get a lot of caffeine. There's spinach and almond milk, a little bit of berries and banana, some protein powder, some bulletproof MCT oil in that too, but a lot of caffeine's in that. So I get that done first thing. I like to start my day with a little caffeine, and a lot of people do that were in that survey too. Next thing is meditation. Meditation has been a game changer for me. I'm not as consistent with it as I should, and it's one of those things that you need to be consistent with. It gets better as you do it over time. Like the first week to month is difficult as hell, but it's a nice challenge, and it becomes very, very necessary over time. You start feeling the benefits of it as you go on. In that survey, 63% of people surveyed said they meditate first thing in the morning. So it tends to be a common trend among top performers. If you haven't meditated before, I wouldn't be too afraid of it. You can start slow, and there's some apps. Calm is one of them. Oak is another one that I use. Headspace is another. There's a ton of them out there. Those are a few that I've used and that I currently kind of switch between. But guided meditation for 5 minutes to 10 minutes every day, especially in the morning. And especially if you're like me, a lot of mornings I'm waking up already thinking about the things that I didn't get done the day before, and the things that I need to accomplish that day, especially early on in the day, to make sure I get everything done I need to. And if I have meetings, it compounds that issue. So it helps me slow down a little bit and like take a breath and like clear my head, so that when I do open up my computer, sit down and start working, that I'm not like all over the place, like bouncing between emails, and I'm just like super focused. So it relieves some of that anxiety and gives me a little bit of focus. Next thing is journal. I use a book called The 5 Minute Journal. It prompts you with a few questions for the morning and then for before bed in the evening. That just helps you kind of look at your day and how you're living your life. And it's really simple to do. It takes 5 minutes. Actually, like if you're quick with it, once you get going, it takes like 1 to 2 minutes. But it's a nice way to stop and think and write something down. I never write anything, so when I'm writing there, it's like, oh, this is pen to paper. This kind of reminds me of, slowing down, kind of taking things back a little bit. So that's really nice to do. Highly recommend that journal. I've also heard of this tactic called morning pages, and essentially the goal or the concept of it is you open up a notebook and you write 3 pages of just like free form, conscious thought. You just kind of get whatever's in your brain. Doesn't matter, like, it doesn't have to be any goal. It could be recapping a dream that you had. It could be talking about what you want to accomplish that day. It could be rehashing an argument that you had the night before that you thought you could have handled better. Really just anything that's in your brain and just getting it out on paper. And that's literally the goal. So it takes a lot of those thoughts that's in your head and it gets them out of your head, puts them down on paper, kind of releases them a little bit and allows you to think through them a little bit. And I've never done it. I'm kind of like nervous to try it, but I've always wanted to. I think it sounds really cool. Next thing I do is read. So I try to read a chapter of a book every morning. That tends to be the one I don't do the most, just because it's so hard to like force yourself to sit down after doing all these other things and be like, all right, I need to be quiet and read. But whenever I do, I tend to absorb the information a lot better than I do in the evening times. So, what I'm typically reading is like kind of business, productivity, self-improvement type of books anyways. So it kind of fits with this whole theme of like setting the intention for your day and kind of getting those positive, productive feelings out. But if you are the type of person, and I know a lot of people are, I am, that's like, I should read more. Then this has been the best way for me to like force myself to actually do it, instead of it being a thought like I should read more. I should read before bed instead of watching TV. Like, do it first thing, and then I tend to want to read more later in the day too. Lastly, for the morning, make your bed. This one comes from Lewis Howes. If you don't follow him, he's got a cool podcast called School of Greatness. He says that making your bed kind of like it sets the tone for your day. Like it kind of closes the book on the chapter of sleep the night before. It's a mental thing, but it's one of those things that like is a nice thing to do. And everyone knows like later in the day when you're coming in from work, you see that messy bed, like it doesn't look appealing as when you walk in, you see that nice made up bed and like you turn it down and get in. It's like it feels so much better when it's been made. So there's a lot of truth to that. I can be a lot better on that, and I will be. So if we switch over to night, there's not as much that I do, but you could literally do most of these things at night too. So it just depends on kind of how you are as a person and how you structure your day. Here are a few things I do at night. First thing is I have it on that habit list app to track my diet. So what did I consume throughout the day? Just to maintain consciousness of what I'm putting into my body, and did I have a good day or a bad day, because that helps me the next day if I need to get back on track, or if I'm continuing that momentum of like, hey, I had a good day yesterday, let's keep it going. Next thing I do, I plan for the day ahead. So I typically will do this at the end of my work day, which tends to be like between 7 and 9. I'll think about what did I have on my list today that I didn't get done. Let's move that to tomorrow. Let's not feel guilty about it. Like, what's done is done. Move it to tomorrow. It's be the first thing I tackle tomorrow. And then just, what are the next things I need to do to move my projects forward? And so I have that list of like, here are the things I need to get done today. My to-do list for the day typically are longer than they should be. I always am moving stuff over from today to tomorrow, and maybe psychologically I should change that. But that's just how I'm doing things right now, just because there's always so much stuff to get done. But plan for the day ahead. Don't wake up in the morning thinking, what should I be doing today? What do I have going on today? What's the first thing I need to tackle today? Like, you should have that in your head, already knowing what you're going to do. And then last is right before I go to bed, I stretch and I roll out, and then I lay on an acupressure mat. And this thing is like magic. It's super, super cool. So if you don't know what it is, it's basically, you can buy it on Amazon, just search acupressure mat. But it's like this foam mat with like little plastic, like kind of little claws on it. And they're supposed to simulate like acupressure needles or acupuncture needles. And so you lay on it and it like hits on these like acupressure points on your back that and like your neck and back of your head that release muscle tension. And it releases endorphins, and it relieves any tension that's like in your back and in your body, and it really, really calms you and kind of really relaxes you. It's really, really cool. So if you're the type of person that when you lay in bed, you're not super comfortable, maybe you have some back pain, it really helps with back pain. But even if like your mind is racing, if you feel a little anxious, like thinking about the next day or what you didn't do today or things that are lingering in your head, I find it really nice to lay down on this mat. I just have it right next to my bed. I lay on it for like 2 minutes, breathe, kind of try and like get the thoughts out. I do like a little mini meditation, just kind of like breathing and laying on this mat and just getting myself ready for like a really awesome night's sleep. It's just like anything with this whole thing, it's like about setting intentions and like getting yourself in the right mindset. That's a really great way to go into a full night of sleep. So that's my routine. Hopefully it gave you some ideas into structuring your own. Would love to hear more about what you guys have in your routine. I'm always looking to like optimize mine and modify. Everybody's different. Everybody should be super personal. So I'd love to hear more about yours. Hit me up and let me know.